I spent some time in Kansas City, and one thing about Kansas City is they have some of the best barbecue in the country. Now I know that's fighting words to you folks in Texas and some of you guys in South Carolina and all over the South, but in my opinion, Kansas City has the best overall barbecue in the country. Yes, the brisket may be better in Texas. Yes, the pork may be better in North Carolina, but Kansas City overall has the best barbecue. When I was there, I learned how to barbecue things properly. One thing you don't do is barbecue things in the oven. You use a proper barbecue. Well, we're not going to use a proper barbecue today. We're going to cook things in the oven, so I can't legitimately call it barbecue. But I am going to tell you how to make an authentic Kansas City rub, and I'll also tell you how to do it in a keto way so that you can do it while you're on keto. And I'll also give you a nice Kansas City style barbecue sauce and also show you how to do that keto. So let's get started. To do a good barbecue rub, you start out with 9 tablespoons of brown sugar. Now if you're doing this keto, you want to use brown swerve. That's the only difference in a keto rub, is you don't want to use real sugar. But other than that, everything's the same. Okay, the next thing you use is you have 6 tablespoons of ground cumin. Then you want to put in 6 tablespoons of paprika. And if you're not barbecuing, you might want to use smoked paprika because that'll give you the smoky flavor you're looking for. Take 3 tablespoons of kosher salt. Use 6 tablespoons of black pepper, 6 tablespoons of chili powder. You want to use 3 tablespoons of mustard powder. And I use the Coleman's dried mustard. If you want to use a different kind of dried mustard, that's fine. Then you want to put in 3 teaspoons of cayenne. This is very spicy, so you want to be careful not to overspice it. Then you want 6 tablespoons of garlic powder and 3/4 of a teaspoon of ground coffee. Mix that all up, and you've got your dry rub, which you're going to put on the ribs. And this is a rub for ribs or chicken. So at some point in the future, I'll show you how to do a nice rub for brisket. And after we cook this, we're going to do a sauce that we can use on ribs and chicken. And then later on, we're going to use a sauce for brisket. So we'll show you how to do all of that over time. But on this video, we're just doing the ribs or chicken. And frankly, my wife took some of this rub, put it on some chicken wings the other night, and she was just crazy about how good it was on the chicken wings. So when I originally developed this rub, I developed it for purposes of ribs and chicken, and that's what you use it for. So now this is all pretty much mixed up. It's time to pour it into a jar and shake it up to make sure it's completely mixed up. All right, once you get it into your jar, close the top, shake it up to make sure it's really mixed. And now you've got a rub to put on your chicken or on your ribs. And we'll show you next how to prepare the ribs and get them into the oven. To get the ribs ready to go, you'll notice on the back you've got what's called a silver skin on the back where it's more concave. You want to go ahead and you want to tear the silver skin off. The best way to do it is you slip a knife under it and then you peel the skin off. Then you have just the ribs left. That exposes the bone without the silver skin protecting it. You sprinkle the rub on top of the bone, you turn the ribs over, then you sprinkle it on the convex portion of the ribs. And so now you've got it all in there. You put it in aluminum foil. You seal up the aluminum foil good and tight. And then you put it in the refrigerator for 4 hours, so that gives the rub a chance to soak into the ribs so that it'll get the flavor melded. After 4 hours in the refrigerator, you take it out, you stick it in the oven at about 275 degrees, cook it for 2.5 hours. So now it's time to make the sauce for the ribs and or chicken. Now you can do this in a keto way if you want, but if you're not doing a keto, you start out with 1/4 cup of sugar. If you're going to do a keto, use a 1/4 cup of xylitol. You're going to put this all in the blender because you're going to blend it all up. Now you want a tablespoon of salt and 2 teaspoons of pepper. Add that in. 2½ teaspoons of celery seed. And it's celery seed, not celery salt. You don't want this too salty. You want to put in 2 teaspoons of dark molasses. Anticipation. Okay, that's 1. Here's 2. Now you want to put in a 1.5 teaspoons of cumin. Put in a tablespoon of onion powder. 1.5 teaspoons of cayenne. Then you want about a teaspoon of chili powder. 1.5 teaspoons of garlic powder. You want about a 1/2 teaspoon of smoked paprika. We like this paprika. We got it from Spain. It'll be hard to find here, but just they're selling it now in the supermarket in the spice section, so you should be able to find it, but you probably won't find this brand. You add in 3/4 cup of apple cider vinegar. And you also want to add in 3/4 cup of ketchup. Now, if you're on keto like we are, you use this type of ketchup. It's a low sugar ketchup. Otherwise, you can use regular ketchup. Now you've got everything for the sauce. Oh yes, about a 1/4 teaspoon of lemon juice. And that's it. Now you want to blend it up, get it nice and smooth, and you'll have a good sauce. This is not a super sweet sauce like you're used to tasting in like Tony Roma's or something like that, but it is more of a Kansas City style sauce, which isn't as sweet. And there we go. Once it's good and blended up, you've got yourself a really nice tasting sauce. And let me just taste it and make sure it's okay. Perfect. It's got the tang, it's got a little sweetness, it's not super sweet, and it's a really nice barbecue sauce. Up, just felt the pepper at the back of my throat. It's good. All right, let's put it in a jar and we'll get it ready for cooking the ribs. All right, it's been about 2 hours. Actually, it's been 2 hours and 27 minutes. So we're going to take the ribs out of the oven now, check them, make sure they're okay. All right, you see there's some juice in there. We're going to take the ribs, we're going to move them onto a rack. I'll have Young pour the juice into a pot and I'll cook it down. And then we'll add some of the sauce we made a little while ago to the boiled down juice. And then we'll brush it on the top of the ribs and we'll put it back in the oven on broil. That's nice and hot, so it started boiling really quickly. Now if you look at that, you see it's getting a little bit thicker. That's about where you want it. So let's turn that off. Now we're going to take some of the barbecue sauce we made earlier and we're going to put a couple of spoonfuls in here. Now we take that together and that's going to make a glaze that we're going to put on top of the ribs. Now ordinarily when I'm making this in a barbecue, I wouldn't glaze them, I just serve them with sauce on the side. But because we're cooking it in the oven, we want to get a little more flavor because we don't have the smokiness of the barbecue. We create the glaze. We're going to brush the glaze on top of the ribs, and then we'll broil it for about 2 to 4 minutes and watch them all the time because they can burn really quickly on a broil. So it's out of the oven. Finished broiling. Time to cut a piece off and try it. Now look at that. It's nice and juicy. It's got all that flavor on the outside. Now realistically, it's better if it spent that time on a smoking barbecue, but out of the oven, this is darn good for a nice ribs.